Hello and welcome back to T3 The Week in Tech. I am Emily.
And I am Sam, and this is what's been happening this week. What has been happening this week?
Well, I'll tell you what happened last week. I got to go see the Nintendo Switch too.
Okay, tell me about that.
So you remember how I told you last week that they told me I couldn't touch it. We get there and go through all this pain of like getting our wristbands and stuff. And like, if you have a colored wristband, you can touch it. And if you have a white one, you're just the camera person. So
No way.
yeah. So
That's
it was
mad.
like, yeah, they were being like really crazy about it. Right. And at one point we got our wristbands mixed up. So like Mike got a white one and I was like, no, you need to come back here because if you have a white one, I also have a white one. Nobody can touch it. So we need to come back and clear this up. But anyways, we go through all that trouble. End up, one of us has a colored wristband. Mike, great. He needs to be the one to touch it. We get in there, the very first room, and we have like a line, right? There's a big old line, for the 9:20 slot was our slot with all the other journalists. And they finally let us in, and it's like a Disney ride lineup with all the twists and turns. And we go through, and they just have a billion Nintendo Switches like set up with TVs and everything. It's great. But Mike goes, and I go to like, I'm not gonna bother them. I'm not gonna touch the Switch. And the guy's like, "You want to play?" I was like, "I've got a white wristband." He was like, "Ah." So we've just gone through all that trouble. Not one of them cared.
Right.
Oh, nobody cared. Everyone could touch them.
Okay.
There was no reason.
So, what was it like?
Fine.
Okay.
That's
a good start.
Like, it's just not that exciting to me. The Nintendo Switch 2.
Okay.
It's bigger. Like, okay. It has a little mouse functionality. Fine. While that's cool, in reality, I don't think I will ever be using the mouse functionality. Because, I mean, we did play a game where you used it. By the way, Mike is not a team player. Kept knocking me out of the way. And I'm like, I'm on your team. Anyways, that's okay. But yeah, so we played like the Mario, like the Jamboree or whatever, and they had some new games that had to do with the mouse. But like we were all sitting at this table like this large as the table we're sitting in front of right now. And you did have to like move it across using quite a wide arm span. And I just can't picture myself setting up a table in front of my TV to do that with. Because I don't think I could do it on like my desk at the moment. I've got a small desk. I couldn't really set that up like as my computer. And yeah, I think that would just go majorly underused. That because if you're playing any games that need mouse support, you're probably already playing them on like your PC or your Steam Deck.
I get that.
We talked about this before. I just don't really know who it's for, because I mean, in my Switch, I just use it in my bed. That's what I do when I want to play a chill game in bed. Like, I never sit in front of the TV with it. And I just can't see myself going to the trouble of setting up setting up the Nintendo Switch too, so that I can use it as it's meant to be used.
Yeah.
Just don't see that world. Because I'm lazy.
Well, that's fair enough. I mean, it certainly sounds interesting. And I say this as someone who's not really, we've discussed this before. I'm not the biggest gamer in the world, right?
Yeah.
I have a few things I like, but it's certainly not really Switch focused, the stuff I enjoy. But it is interesting to me. It seems, how do I put this? It seems like quite a gentle collection of upgrades, which is not bad. And it's not setting the world on fire. It's just...
It's crazy that it took them 8 years.
It's pretty much exactly what you'd expect, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's exactly...
The camera's a little out of left field.
The camera sounds really bizarre. I've only heard about this. I've not even seen it, actually. But that sounds like a choice.
We ignored the game that used the camera because during that demo, right? It's a huge hall. We're at Excel in London, this event, and they have it set up. Yeah, so they have this huge hall set up, and they have different massive stations for each game. Well, they have like 20 Nintendo Switches set up with one game on it, and you stand in line and you go play that game when that slot opens. So which we didn't often have to stand in line and wait, but we did a couple times. But one of the games, you're in this huge hall, like hundreds of people, and one of them requires you to scream. And I hadn't realized that. I had heard like, you know, some light yelling. We were doing something else. We were filming, and I hear this blood-curdling scream from a woman.
Right.
And I'm like, someone, one of these gamer boys is assaulting a woman over there. I was quite alarmed. I stopped filming and everything, turned around, was like, oh my God, can someone do something? Anyways, so it, and like the rest of the hall also kind of was like unsure about what to do.
I bet that got really tiresome really quickly.
Well,
just having people scream every 5 minutes.
So our friends at Tech Radar were there as well. So Josie, they're one of their managing editors, she comes over and she was like, did you guys hear the screaming game or whatever? And I was like, was that you? Yeah, anyways, good fun.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with it. I'm kind of on the peripheral of it, but I do think it seems quite cool. It's just interesting to me. It almost feels like it's trying to make a slight move towards the Steam Decks and ROG Allies of the world, but it's not gone too far. Do you know what I mean? It's not gone. It's sort of dipped a toe in the water and gone, that's enough for me. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like Nintendo is just always, I mean, we've always seen where they are just so hyper-focused on providing a way for you to play with your friends when nobody plays with their friends anymore. Like, we saw that with, you know, the DS, with them adding chat and adding all the different like little features that made it so like fun to do co-op or whatever.
Sure.
And they made it more social. We saw it with the Wii, you know, when they started adding kind of the same stuff as what they're doing with the Switch 2. And yeah, now they're really trying to say, oh, you can play with your friends if you all own a copy of this 80-pound game and have bought our 50-pound cameras. Now all of you can play together. It's like, well, that kind of is different. That's entirely different. Like the Switch, when it first came out, it was kind of about being together in the same location.
Yeah.
That was kind of the point of it. And then COVID came, I guess, and they realized that everyone played Switch alone in their homes, and now they're just trying to say, no, you don't have to do that. You can still. I'm like, no, you don't understand. I don't actually want to play with other people.
I think the cost of the games is actually one of the things that's really surprised me about this.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, you know, we're in a world where £80 for games is not out of the realms, right? It happens on PS5 and PC and whatever, and all that sort of stuff. But I feel like the difference there is on, I'm going to say PS5 as an example. You can talk about it in any context, but let's say I buy a PS5 game, right? I go out and buy, I don't know, the latest EA Sports FC game or the PGA Tour game or something like that. It is so realistic and immersive, and it looks almost like you're watching the TV screen. And that level of immersion, you kind of, I'm not saying it's justified, but you can understand the cost. Yes. You can understand why, to get to that point, we've gone, okay, do you know what? Yeah. It does look good. You know, there's no denying that.
I'd pay that for like an Elder Scrolls game. Yeah.
I don't believe, and correct me if I'm wrong,
I don't
believe the Nintendo games look like that. They still look cartoonish. And that's fine, because that's Nintendo's whole vibe. But it feels odd to me to go, I'm going to pay £80 for a game that doesn't look massively different to how it might have done 20 years ago.
Yeah, and I suppose looks aren't the only thing that is important about a game, right? That's not the only thing that makes it good. But you're completely right. I mean, they're just way more limited in scope than a lot of the games we see. Yeah. And maybe we'll see that change now that, you know, the Switch is a little bit more powerful. But
yeah. I mean, I hope so. Do you know what? We always used to talk about like the deals they were doing to try and get like Call of Duty on Switch and things like that. And I do think that, I mean, so I remember, I don't know if that did ever come to fruition or not. Maybe it did. You know, I grew up with like a PSP, and that was an amazing device.
Iconic.
And I feel like the Switch is so close to sort of redoing that in a modern age, particularly with the new Switch 2, if it's going to be more powerful. But it doesn't feel like it's quite there to me.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting, though. Going to be interesting.
I don't think it quite knows what it wants to be or where it wants to live. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I probably wouldn't upgrade. It's as big as my Steam Deck now, just not as thick, which I don't want that. I've got a Steam Deck. I want my Switch. My Switch Lite is just smaller and easier to carry. That's like the thing that I bring if I'm gonna get like, you know, vastly bored. I bring that to play like Animal Crossing or something. You know, if I'm going on like a plane, because Steam Deck just isn't that practical to travel with. But yeah, I don't know. It's weird. Oh, one of the fun bits was there was this demo bit where it basically teaches you all about how to use the Nintendo Switch, and it's like an educational kind of game. And it also had like guess the frame rate, you know, showing off how like great the screen is, you know. But so it has all those kind of games and like quizzes. That's not free. The privilege of playing that intro game to the Switch. You know how much they're charging for that game?
No.
I kind of want you to guess. It's not a game even. It's just the
It's
intro.
like the
It's
intro.
like called Welcome to Switch or something.
Right. And it's charged on top of the price of the Switch.
Yeah, it doesn't come with the Switch. This is a separate game.
£10.
Right on the money.
What? That is just... what? So this game is just showing you what the Switch can do.
Isn't that crazy? I think that was the highlight of the day for most people. Yeah, it is a $9.99 digital purchase.
So
Let's look at the actual page. So it's this. It's like, and I know this is like not super interesting for people who are just listening, but yeah, the Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour, and you're basically walking around. You're this little icon person. It's kind of like the Wii. You know, when you could walk your Wii around town and stuff.
Yeah.
Your Me. I guess it was your Me. You've got this little avatar, and they basically walk around a mall, but it's made of massive Switch.
Wow.
Anyways, you just go to different little bits. So, yeah, so discover all the secrets of Nintendo Switch 2. You know, when you stop to think about it, there are a lot of interesting technologies and clever designs that go into video game consoles. So, let's consider Nintendo Switch 2. Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour is an interactive exhibit of sorts that offers an inside look at the suite of features and tech that power the games you love to play. Look, touch, and feel your way through the different exhibits. Blah, 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 blah.
That sounds really, really weird to me. Like, surely if the point is to showcase what the Switch can do, you'd make it free. Mm-hmm. It's just
You'd
so
think
weird.
it would come
That's just
with
so
it.
weird.
Like, that's kind of like getting, I don't know, pulling out a new TV and it hasn't come with an instruction manual. Like, they're like, you have to pay extra for that.
Well, it'd be like buying, buying a TV, but the quick start guide costs you an extra 10 quid.
Yeah.
If you want to like get all your settings. Otherwise, you got to trawl through every menu and code and stuff.
You got to figure it out yourself.
Okay. Well, in any case, I think that does sound quite interesting, but I think let's move on to some other things that have happened this week.
Yeah.
I want to start in a familiar place for us with Apple and the iPhone, but a little bit different actually. So we don't really delve too deeply into like market data and things like that here at T3. It's just not something we especially cover. No. But something just happened that made me break that rule. For the first time ever, data from a company called Counterpoint, who are a research company, found that in Q1, Apple sales beat Samsung. Now, normally, Apple tends to come to fruition in Q3, Q4, because that's, after they've released their new models. And then Samsung tends to rule the roost in Q1 because they've just launched the Samsung Galaxies. And it's really interesting, I think, to just take a minute and dive into exactly what's going on here. So the first thing of note is, obviously, Apple unveiled the 16E. Now, we don't know on individual model levels what sold, so we don't know if that was the root cause, but I'm gonna guess it's probably had a bit of a positive impact. There's also then the whole tariff situation in the US where there's potential that a lot of people have upgraded early for fear of a more expensive device down the line.
Yeah.
And the other point worth noting is that, sorry, actually, I was just going to say, upgrading to a new iPhone, you wouldn't have done that if you bought Samsung, because apparently a lot of Samsungs are made in Vietnam, which isn't tariffed as heavily. So there was no need to do that for Samsung handsets. And then the third point is that Samsung's release of the Galaxy S25 range was slightly pushed back, wasn't it? We sort of saw the launch and it was a few weeks until the devices were hitting the shelves, and it looks like that may have also caused a little bit of a slide for Samsung. Just a really interesting point to see that, you know, that's kind of changing around, and I don't know that we need to delve too deeply. I don't think it's like a seismic shift. Apple is now the global command leader of tech, but I think it's just an interesting point that when everything collides, you sort of see how quickly tides can shift in this industry.
That is really interesting. I'm not entirely sure what to think about that, because all the things you've pointed out are absolutely true.
And I don't think we need to like jump into anything too quickly. You know, it's just an interesting point, right? I feel like, you know, when different things converge, it's just interesting to see how quickly tides can shift.
Yeah.
But cool for Apple. And actually, while we're on the subject of Samsung, let me just mention as well. So obviously, it's taken them a really long time to bring One UI 7, which is the Android 15 build, to market. That started to happen at the start of the month, but they've paused the rollout due to some issues that were needing maintenance within the build. And what's most interesting and probably most frustrating for Samsung users is that Android 16 is expected in just a few months' time now. It's taken so long for them to get the One UI 7 build together that it's actually almost obsolete anyway. In fact, I think on the planned original rollout, a lot of devices were only going to get the One UI 7 build about a week or two before we're expecting Android 16 to be.
That's not a good precedent.
It's really, really strange. There's a serious bug, they've said, is the reason why it's stopped at this moment in time. But it's a bizarre situation, isn't it? Because Samsung, for so many years, has been really hot with like being, you know, first or about first to the punch. It's always been kind of there, you know, they've always been in with a shout right at the front. And I just don't know what's gone wrong this time.
Major bug.
Well, yeah, it's a bizarre one, but so that's not such good news.
I have one for you.
Go on, hit me.
In the future, you might never have to take off your Galaxy Ring to charge it.
I had that to say to you as well.
Yes.
This sounds so cool. Go on, tell me about it.
So basically, Samsung we've seen this patent come from them where they've figured out a way to make a charger that can go on your finger without you having to take off your ring. So it charges your ring on your finger. And essentially, if I'm looking at this right, they're giving you two rings.
Yeah.
So you've got the Samsung Smart Ring or the Galaxy Smart Ring or whatever, and then you've got a battery ring that you can put on top of that. And I assume they connect magnetically, and then the battery ring. It's kind of like right now on my phone, I've got an extra battery pack connected to the back of my phone, and now this is I'm just carrying this around. But then you can take this off and go charge it, and then you still got your phone. But
if you click, there's two different designs I've just spotted. So there's one that's like that with the extra ring, and then there's another one which snaps on almost.
That's not as fun.
Almost akin to like what you'd say is like a diamond in a ring, and that can. So basically, what they're doing is they're giving you some sort of tiny little battery packs to top up your ring without
That's so nice,
needing
though.
to take it off and put it on the charger.
Because then you can just, you can put your little battery ring on charge during the day, come back home, put it on before you go to sleep. Your ring charges overnight. You've still got all of the health data you need.
It's a good idea. I
love that. Yeah. I think that is brilliant because, I hate interrupting the stream of data that I'm getting from like my watch. But obviously my Apple Watch, she's an older girl now. She dies quite quickly. But she gets through like a day, and then I do need to charge her before I go to bed. But I like to have my watch on while I sleep. So usually, I'll charge it while I shower or something. But sometimes I still get into ruts where it dies, and then I'm like, well, I'll put it on, and then I fall asleep, and she's still charging, and then I put her on in the middle of the night, and then my data is inaccurate, and I don't like that. It defeats the purpose of having it if your data is incomplete to me.
Yeah, I get you. I must be honest, I've not kept up with smart rings, given that, I mean, they seem to have just come on leaps and bounds in the last year or so. But it does surprise me that this is an issue that needs resolving right now, because one of the big things and the reasons why watches and phones deplete so quickly is the display. But given that there is no display on these, I know there's obviously sensors and stuff that require battery power, and you've got a smaller battery capacity and room for the cell itself. But I kind of assumed that smart rings would have at least a few days of battery.
Do they not?
I don't really know, but I'm guessing based on this that must not be the case, right? Because otherwise, why would this be such an issue? And if they do, is this not a bit of a moot point? Because taking an hour or two out every 3 or 4 days or every 7 days is less of an issue than doing it every night like you would with an Apple Watch.
I'm sorry. Okay, it's up to 7 days. On a single charge, the Galaxy Ring can last up to 7 days, depending on usage. Battery life may be extended by up to 30% if worn alongside a Galaxy Watch, as this helps reduce redundant feature usage. That is interesting to me, actually.
That's cool.
But yeah.
I think it's interesting. I kind of love smart rings. I've not... I like the idea of using one, actually. Obviously, I spend most of my time reviewing watches, traditional, real watches. I don't know, real's the wrong word, but you know what I mean, mechanical watches.
Analog watches.
And so smart watches have just not really been my thing for a long time, because you look like a bit of a goon if you're wearing 2 watches. So I've ditched that, and the smart ring idea really does appeal to me, but I don't know, it doesn't sit. It sounds really interesting and really cool, and I'm glad they've sort of gone down that route. But I feel like if the ring is lasting for 7 days anyway, taking it off for an hour or two to charge it every 7 days, I think that's an anomaly that most people can live with.
I mean, yeah, but it'd be nice to be able to top it up. Just using it. Like, I don't mind that. I think that's interesting. I mean, I think
it's definitely interesting. And hats off to them for doing it. I don't know if it's necessary, but it's interesting.
The battery thing has always been a little bit of a thorn in all wearables, the battery thing has always felt like a bit of a thorn in the side, because I want to be a cyborg, Sam. I want it on all the time. I want it part of me.
Do you know what I miss? I used to have a Garmin. They were phenomenal. They just last and last and last. I love those things. Yeah. But the design of it, I mean, they're so big and chunky. It didn't really suit me. Yeah. But the battery life on them was fantastic.
Did you see that they recently tried to introduce subscriptions and then people revolted? It was strong.
Good for the people. We're wholly in the subscription age now, but I don't see how it's sustainable. So I've sort of been looking at it recently, right? I've just moved and I've got I'm looking at TV packages and stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, got a bit of free time, like to watch TV. I look at Sky. Their base package I think is quite reasonable. You get I think it's £15 a month for Sky and Netflix as the basic package. Then you can pay a bit more and you get these channels, and a bit more and you get these channels, and yada yada yada. You know how this works. I'm not going to teach you to suck eggs. But then you sort of look at it and you go, okay, but then there's Prime Video, and there's Disney Plus, and there's this, and there's that, and then I'm going to pay for Spotify, or I'm going to pay for Apple Music, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that.
And my Boots optician subscription.
And before you know it,
like that.
You're spending hundreds and hundreds of pounds a month, and it's just, I don't think it's sustainable. I don't think, and also
you've got to be very picky.
Don't you miss the tangible nature of things? Do you know what I love? Slight side note.
Yeah.
I have a package of software called Serif Affinity, and it is basically Adobe InDesign, Photoshop, and I can't remember what the third one is. I've used it that little. I used the Photoshop and InDesign ones. Anyway, it's a suite of 3 softwares. It cost me 80 quid. And it's a one-off purchase.
Yes.
You buy it, you own it. That's it. Just like how things used to be. And I love, love, love that. It's so good.
Yeah.
Because it means that I don't have to worry. They could release... I've got the Affinity 2, which I think is still current. they could release Affinity 3 tomorrow or Affinity 4. And if I don't upgrade, that's
They
fine.
don't care. Yeah.
Mine still works. It still does what I need it to.
Yeah.
I've actually never even updated it. There's an update that every time I open the software, it says, you can update this. And I'm like, every time I open the software, it's because I need to do something really quickly. So I'm like, I will do this next time. And I've done that for about a year and a half now. So
that's how it goes.
Unfortunately, I feel like it's going to cause a bit of a meltdown when it does update. But
Yeah.
it's fantastic. It's just brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And I love stuff like that in this day and age. It feels special when you own something.
You know what's even better? When they offer a subscription, but they also offer, or you could just pay this one-time fee, because I will always just, it's like your analogy about why McDonald's offers small fries, right? Because it makes the large one look good. The subscription makes the purchase look good to me.
Yeah, I get you. I get you.
Purchase.
Do you-
I'm like, yeah, I want that forever. Thank
Do
you.
you have like a price in mind that's like the most you'd pay for a one-off? Because I've got an app at the minute.
Depends on what it is.
Yeah, okay.
I paid the most money I've ever paid for an Apple game, an iPhone game the other day.
How much was that?
Tell me, you guess. It was a game.
A tenner?
Yeah, fair. Yeah, okay. That's the
tenner.
most I've ever paid for an iPhone game. Yeah.
Right, okay, that's fair.
I'm
I'm really hot again. Every question you've gone today, we've gone, oh, I want you to guess. It's been £10. You got to shake that up a little, otherwise it's going to get too easy.
I've only asked 2 questions.
I know. Well, it's interesting. There's an app I've been using loads recently. I've got like the free version of it, and then there's a subscription
They'll get ya.
or a one-time thing to like unlock all the bits you don't get on the free
Uh-huh.
trial. And I've been looking at it, and I'm like, this is like, it's really dumb, right? It's a dumb app. It's just, it's goofy. It's a camera app, so it recreates like old Super 8 video cameras and stuff.
Yeah.
It's stupid, like totally not necessary, but also I kind of love it. And I'm like, I think it's like £11 for a lifetime app.
You saw my horror
like
when I was like
£5.
monthly.
No, or like £5 a month, and that unlocks
Oh.
all the different ones they do. And I'm like,
Christ, pay £11.
for £11, I'm like, that's quite a good deal. Like, I think I might.
Wow.
It's just an interesting thing though, because that's more than I would have ever thought to pay before.
But suddenly,
But suddenly it's
it's
got
deal.
value to me because I'm like, it's kind of cool. It's just interesting how that's all shifting.
I could have it for 2 months, or I could have it forever.
Well, yeah, this
Not
is the
that
thing,
having,
right?
and before nothing was on the table.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing I really hate about apps and subscriptions or whatever is how they shove it down your throat. Like, whenever you know how they'll have like, Duolingo does it all the time. It's maddening. The worst is when you've got the setting available to you and then you click on it and it's like, no, that's a premium subscription. I'm like, hide it from me if I can't use it. Then if
Yes.
I think, oh, does it have this feature?
Yes.
Then your app should be like, or your website should be like, well, yes, it does. If you just, go to your little settings and upgrade, you'll automatically get a bunch of features added. But I don't want them in my face. That's obnoxious to me. I'll delete that app. I'll get rid of that because stop that. Nope. Do not be a pig.
Anyway, let's move on from our slightly rambly
Sorry.
tangent. Beats cables.
Oh, God, I did see that.
$18.99 for a USB cable.
Okay, Sam, I hate that I said this, but I looked at those and I thought, if there's one in my color.
Do you know
There
what?
is not, though.
Do you know what? Cables. This is a really weird thing to pick up on, but stick with me. Cables are the dullest thing you'll ever
Yes.
buy.
But there's
And
also nothing like a good cable.
this is exactly where I was going, right?
So satisfying.
You go and you'll probably spend like, £6 on a 2-pack from Amazon or whatever. And it might last you a lifetime. It might last you a month. You don't really know. Particularly now that we've got this EU mandate that means that we're going to basically see USB-C on everything. So you're just going to need USB-C cables. I quite like the idea of going out and getting some premium.
Yeah.
Just having like 4 really high-end USB-C cables.
Better
and I'm
for
like,
the environment. It's better for your sanity.
and it's like
just,
it's
yeah.
nice. There's a bit of assurance with it now
Yeah.
that like, oh, they're not going to bring out USB-D next week and suddenly everything changes.
Yeah, well, hopefully that's the case.
I think it will be. I think we're stuck with this for a while.
Yeah, where's some wood?
So that's cool. That's something a bit different.
Yeah, no, I do think too. Like, I mean, I am in like I guess I'm in my slow living phase. You know me, I don't like Amazon. I don't buy things off of Amazon anymore. Strong ban on it. I would much rather pay amount of money that ensures,
Is it £10?
but to make sure, I get a quality thing that I'm not gonna have to replace in 6 months because it's shitty. And make sure that everyone's like, been paid fairly. There's not children making them. I feel like that is all worth the cost. A little bit more. That's worth it.
Yeah. It's just interesting to me because obviously we see this in a lot of other industries, but cables generally haven't had this. And it's just an interesting thing that this maybe is something that might come out of the EU mandate. I've never really thought of a luxury USB-C cable, but I'm kind of thinking that might be. I think it's just we're in an age now where it's nice to have nice things. And
I think it's that we have grown up.
Yeah.
I think that we're entering our boring age.
Well, but these little things that can just make the difference. I don't know. It's just an interesting one. I've got 2 smartwatch stories for you. I want to bring these up.
Yeah.
So first things first is renders, which have leaked for the Google Pixel Watch 4. The thing that I think is most worth mentioning, well, there's 2 parts. Firstly, it doesn't look like the bezel size is decreasing, which has always been the gripe with Google Pixel watches. They have such thick bezels, and they kind of don't need to have. They do have curved displays, but you can get around that. It just seems a bit of a shame.
Playing devil's advocate. We spend a lot of time, ripping out phones because we think that they're all becoming the same. Maybe the thick bezels maybe that's Google's.
Maybe that's the look,
that's what they want their OnePlus button to be.
I'd just like to see them do something a bit more with it. If you're going to do it, rather than just having it black, like cover it, put it, put a nice metal bezel on it or something. Like it doesn't have to be dull.
Yeah.
If you're going to make a thing of it, I'd like to see them really go for it. The other thing that does annoy me more is it looks set to be about 2mm thicker. Which is
so not only it hasn't gotten thinner, it's just gotten even bigger.
So apparently that's to accommodate a larger battery, according to the report I'm reading here. So it's 14.3mm, and as someone who deals in like watch terms, that's quite large. That's big enough that you're going to catch it on bag straps and whack it on doors without realizing. And it's not uncommon for smartwatches to be a bit thicker, but like.
Not good smartwatches.
It's just bizarre because I actually think the design of the Pixel Watch is one of the sleekest smartwatch designs from a major brand. I think that is much sleeker than the Apple Watch.
I've been
Controversial opinion.
I like the Apple Watch. I've been brainwashed.
I think that looks fantastic from the top, but if you could make one of those that was the 9.7mm thickness of the Apple Watch Series 10, you'd sell them in bucketfuls. It would be so nice to wear.
Yeah. I don't know that I do like that, actually.
Really?
I think that's kind of an ugly design.
Interesting.
But I don't think it's just because
You're indoctrinated with the Apple.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's the case.
The other thing that's worth mentioning while we're on smartwatches is Wear OS. It looks set to get a fairly significant upgrade in the form of Google Gemini finally coming to the device. So the report here suggests that there was a load of code found in the back end, which basically references Gemini. Says, things like get started with Gemini, speak naturally, and get more done with the personal assistant on your watch, blah, 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 all that sort of stuff. So it looks like that's coming. We don't know when, potentially soon. However, I suspect it's more likely that they'll hang fire and launch it with the Pixel Watch 4. It seems like it seems too big to be a midterm upgrade. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
But maybe not. But I do think it's interesting. I've waxed lyrical about my love for Google Gemini on these podcasts and in videos, and having it on your wrist, it just makes it even more useful. It's a really handy bit of tech. It works reasonably well, and yeah, I think it's only going to get better. So I think that's a nice upgrade for those on Wear OS.
Gemini is what we have at work, right? Like that's
yes, we can use Gemini here.
Right. That's like the new thing that they've implemented in our G Suite. I've tried to use it. It's not very good. Like,
I think the implementation of it in the G Suite is really just like so dumb. It's the same thing we've said for the whole of the like AI wave, right? Which is it's trying to do things that really nobody asked for.
Yeah. I've also asked it to do some simple things for me, and it just hasn't been able to do them. Like, look, it has the options: create a document, help me write, meeting notes, more. I've just gone over here and I was like, hey, can you transcribe something for me? And it was like, I can't do that. I was like, but you've got the you do have voice typing. Like, it's just not useful. I asked her the other day, could you turn on dark mode? She was like, here's how you do it. And I was like, I want you to do it. I don't want to go through the steps. That's why I've asked you to do it.
Yeah. It's an interesting... Look, no one's claiming that this is like a final boss. Like, there's definitely some kinks to iron out in AI across the board.
I just don't know how to use it.
I think that... Because the other thing, right, is that in order to do things like enabling dark mode, it will need permission to make changes to your device, won't it?
It has all the permission it wants. We're in Google. Please.
But dark mode it will be a system setting.
No, but I meant within Google.
Right.
I was like, just make my screen a little bit darker. Please.
I do find that you still... I mean, they always talk about natural language. I still find you've got to be a bit particular in how you talk to it. And I've found that sometimes it can go round in circles. So like, I love talking to Gemini Live. I really do. I do think it's quite natural, and you can find you can get a good amount from it. But you often find that it exhausts its bank of information fairly quickly. Yeah. So I think I spoke about this on a previous pod, maybe.
Weeks ago.
Where like something went wrong with the heating in my house, and I was talking to Gemini to try and figure out what it was, and it was like it went through 3 things. And then it was like, it said the first thing again, and I was like, we've already done that. And then it went to the second thing again, and I was like, okay, I feel like we're just going around in circles now. And then it started again and was like, what can I help you with? And I'm like, okay. So it quickly exhausts what it can pull from. But I do I'm starting to really believe in the idea. I can kind of see the vision for the first time, and I'm really excited by the prospect. Particularly in the voice assistant realm. I think that's where it's going to really shine. Because it's kind of what you always wanted Siri and Hey Google and all the others to do.
You know what? I've completely lied to you. I have used this for a really useful thing. I put a bunch of our TikTok data into a spreadsheet, and I said, hey Google, what are the trends you're spotting from this? And she was able to tell me like trends. It was so helpful. Yeah, like
that's cool.
Right? I was like, that is genuinely thank you.
I know there's a lot of people who talk about it in terms of like Photoshop and things, and there's obviously a big discussion to be had around artistic creative rights and things like that. Which is really quite has the potential to be quite dangerous for a wide span of people. However, one of the things I do most often in Photoshop is removing the words from an image, right? So if you've got an image and it says like available from the get rid of those words to make it look nice. And if that's on anything but a plain background, it is like plucking your eyeballs out. It is horrifically painful to sit there and try and do it. And an AI, I was thinking this morning actually, an AI would just literally look at that and go, there you go, done. Like it's not even a challenge to it. It kind of reminds me of do you remember when we got like the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 on phones? I remember the first time I tested a phone with that chip, and I was like, oh, this is the turning point now. Like this was always good before, but this is another level above because it's not breaking a sweat when it should be. Like you sort of felt it like, old phones would turn around and just be like, whoa, okay, I can't really deal with this. And it was just like, okay, and what's next? Come on, give me something else. It just takes it all in its stride. And that's sort of how AI feels now, where it's like, it's starting to get to that point where there's things that it can just do better than I can. And I think as long as we sort of are mindful of how we use it and are mindful of sort of, I don't think it's a creative entity. I don't think it's ever been a creative entity to me. I don't think that's what it's about.
But the thing is, the people who are not creative and are going to be using it and, displacing real creatives, they don't actually understand what that is. No. And that's why you need creative people. I think if people don't know what they're missing, then they won't miss it.
Yeah. I just think that there are certain ways where this technology is too good to ignore.
Yeah, I just don't trust the people who have it at the moment. Like, yeah. I mean, it's like social media, right? Like, where there's a lot of great things about social media, but people do not use it in the correct way.
No, sure.
Because people are dumb.
Yeah, and you know, you can't teach stupid, as they always say.
Nope.
So that's always going to be a problem, right? It doesn't matter what it does. But, you know, on a purely tech basis, it's quite cool.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not wrong.
I've got two other things that I've just thought of that I was going to mention. First things first, PlayStation 5 has just gone up in price.
Oh, God.
Now, this is, I think this is quite ridiculous. It's gone up by 40 quid. So in the UK, it's gone from £389 to £429, which is about 10% increase. That's frustrating. What is perhaps more frustrating is that, I'll read you this. Sony PlayStation cites a challenging economic environment, including high inflation and fluctuating exchange rates, as the key reason behind the changes. And to cut through the haze, I think what they're trying to say is tariffs. Tariffs have done this, right? Like, it's no secret. Stock markets around the world have been playing yo-yo for the last few weeks. But it's so frustrating to me as a UK consumer to think, you know, I love the PS5. I may have gone out and bought myself one. And to think that that's now more expensive because of things that are happening on the other side of the world in a country that has absolutely no bearing on my life, that's frustrating. And I get that from a business perspective, it's easier to just sort of spread, you know, the sort of buzz term at the minute is that they're going to spread it over the entire world to minimize the effects to the US market. So rather than a 145% increase in the USA, it's going to be a 20% increase in all territories. And I hate that because in 4 years' time, when certain people may have left their office and gone and retired from what they are doing, which seems to be making everything go haywire, and we maybe look at these tariffs and go, well, actually, that's a pretty dreadful idea. Let's take things back and you know, right the wrongs of a previous government. You can bet your bottom dollar those prices will not change to reflect that.
Yeah.
That 20% markup globally will be kept. And I think that is a really shady thing to do in what is a really horrific economic situation for most people. I know it's just a PlayStation. It's not the end of the world, but it just irks me because, you know, there's nothing that has happened here to cause that price to rise. It seems very opportunistic. And I don't like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think the worst bit is I don't think it's the last time we're going to see it. I think this is actually only the start, and you're going to see quite a lot of products where it's like, oh, the price is actually about to rise. Why? Oh, challenging economic. You know, we saw the similar thing with like COVID, right, where the price of everything just skyrocketed. And it's like that was more understandable though because that was a global thing. This is, I understand that it has a global reach, but it is not a global thing, and it feels. Do you know what it feels like? It feels like you've been given detention because the kid behind you was making a noise.
Yeah.
It's like, I haven't done anything wrong here. I was in the same room, but that's it. Like,
yeah.
That is, it grinds my gears.
Yeah. No, I know.
And the other thing, just before we hop back, because I can see some things happening there, AR glasses. We've talked about these before. Obviously, we know there's a few different things out there. Meta comes to mind, and we've seen like Orion and things like that. There is a report that's come out this week. Well, it actually came from Mark Gurman's Power On newsletter earlier in the week. Apple is apparently full steam ahead with AR glasses. And someone who was sourced in Gurman's newsletter was cited as saying Tim Cook cares about nothing else. This is project numero uno, the highest of the high, and it's really exciting to me.
I can't wait.
I think it'll be fantastic. I think the AR glasses is like the final form that we've been waiting for this sort of technology. Again, I think we've had this discussion before. It's interesting to me. So I wrote about this earlier in the week, and I said at the time, it seems like the two big players at the minute are Meta and Apple. Also, don't rule out Snap. Snap have been doing some really cool things behind the scenes. But
very, very behind the scenes.
yes. But of the three, I don't think I'd place Apple at the top. I think Meta are far and away in the lead right now.
In terms of,
I think they've got the form factor because they've been doing stuff with Ray-Bans. So obviously, there's a really nice tie in there from a style
I was going to say,
side.
are you talking about Ray-Bans or are you talking about like
a little bit of both? But I just think there's a really big leap that's needed before this technology is ready to market, and there's probably another leap after that before it is mainstream. But if you had to put money on it right now, I think the betting man goes with Meta. So it's interesting to me because Apple needs to make some substantial jumps before it's there.
I want Apple to make Meta Ray-Bans because I love my Meta Ray-Bans, but my God, I don't want Meta on my face. I do not trust that whatsoever.
I think it would be really interesting to see how Apple goes about it.
Yeah.
Because obviously it's kind of a catch-22. And I guess I kind of didn't think about it with the Vision Pro, which is interesting. But a lot of the functionality they want in a pair of AR glasses is functionality that will replace your iPhone, right? It will stop your iPhone from being your main device.
Not any more than the watch did, though.
No, I disagree. I think if I've understood correctly the idea behind them, these are going to be your all-day, everyday device. They are going to be how you search the web, how you get information on different things and bits like this. Well, that's the plan, right? Is that these are like...
It's very far down the line.
Well...
And I think that's fine.
That's the next sort of bastion that it looks like everyone's aiming towards. Really tangented this bastion. Question for you is, how long do you think it'll be before we see something in this format, and for the sake of those of you who can't see my screen, which is the rest of you, a pair of specs that look vaguely similar to regular old reading glasses.
No, they do not.
Well, all right, they're a little bit chunkier, but do you know what I mean? They have a form factor.
That's like the grandfather's glasses from Up.
They really are. I don't hate that. But they're a pair of glasses that look vaguely normal. It's not a headset, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. How long do you think it is before this technology is with us?
I think it's already with us, just nobody's going to wear that.
No, sorry. I'm talking about in terms of like that can do the full AR thing where you've got your apps and stuff that you can control, and because that's sort of what they're going to, right? Is that these devices can do everything like you do on a Vision Pro, for example.
I mean, I think it's entirely possible at this point in time. It's just not elegant in any way.
Yeah. Well,
but you mean when it'll be something that people actually want to use?
I think when it can be bought and when it will be mainstream is the two.
Like a decade.
Do you think? As long as that?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, and people are still amazed when they see like Meta Ray-Bans like in the wild. And those things have been around for ages. Everyone loves them. I think they're the best form factor that we've seen so far, with smart glasses or whatever. Wore mine this morning. My must-have summer accessory, honestly. But people still are very slow to adopt them. And yeah, I think that's always going to be the case. I mean, Google Glass, people didn't want it. People didn't want that. Still a super cool piece of technology. Like, I think it's going to be a long time.
Okay.
I think they've got to be like virtually indistinguishable from a normal pair of glasses.
I think,
and then also some people don't want to wear glasses.
Yeah, fair enough.
Like, are you kidding me? What the hell did we get? Why do we all go to contacts suddenly? Like, there's gonna be people who are like, well, I need that in a contact, and it's just gonna be like, I don't really like wearing glasses on my face anymore. I don't enjoy it. So no, I don't really want to put in my contact lenses and then put on a pair of glasses on top of that. I don't think I do. So yeah.
Interesting.
Anyways.
Yeah, I think we'll see something in about 5 years. Okay. Personally, I think it's closer.
You might be right. You might be more right.
Certainly exciting. Thanks so much for watching. Leave us a comment down below. Let us know what you've enjoyed, and we'll see you next time.
See you next week.